The Palace of Quiet War's Runa had memorized the rhythm of the palace shields. A soft hum at dawn, a steady thrum by noon, a lull like held breath at midnight. Ilos's capital glittered beneath, pretending the intergalactic war was a rumor beyond the rings. Her father, Archon Valen, kept her buried in silk and protocols, safe as a gem in glass. But safety felt like a cage. Since childhood, Runa had trained in secret with the sentry drones and her old tutor Sereth, learning grapples, silent takedowns, and the language of knives. She watched frontline holofeeds after curfew, memorizing enemy silhouettes, counting the minutes it took a cruiser to burn in vacuum. That night a courier ship streaked low over the palace, scorched, hunted. Runa saw the hunt reflected in the glass and felt something in her finally crack. She pulled a duffel from beneath her bed, compact respirator, nano-weave cloak, pigment wafers to change her eyes a storm grey. On a slate she wrote 4 words for her father. "I won't die waiting." Then she stepped into a maintenance shaft, heart drumming a new war rhythm of her own. Ilia is born. In the Undercity Bazaar, lights swung like captured moons, and the air tasted of ozone, spice, and engine coolant. Runa became Ilia with a rub of pigment wafers and a scissor-cut fringe. Her royal cadence softened into dockhand slang. She bartered a ring for a battered flight jacket, hid her posture behind a slouch, and let the crowd teach her invisibility. Newscasters barked above the stalls, skirmish at the Zeph Gate, refugee fleets rerouted, Archon Valen imposing a sector-wide curfew. Ilia swallowed. He'd lock the planet if he had to. At a kiosk, a 4-armed Saren broker offered passage off-world, no questions, if Ilia could help load medical crates. She lifted one and felt dense metal shift under thin foam. Rifles. War bled into everything. She helped anyway. In a hangar bay that smelled of old fuel and salt brine from reclaimers, she met the ship, the Rust Moth, hull patched like a beggar's coat. Its pilot, a feline-eyed Qatari named Mika, watched Ilia with amused suspicion. "You running from something?" "Toward?" Ilia said, and meant it. "The Rust Moth lifts." The Rust Moth shuddered awake with a cough of blue fire. Inside, conduits pulsed like veins, and crates of medicine sat webbed to the bulkheads. Mika's co-pilot, a beetle-browed Vesk named Orr, clicked mandibles in greeting. "We keep to shadow lanes," Mika said, talons flicking switches. "War makes pirates bold and blockades lazy." Ilia strapped in, palms damp. Through the viewport, Ilos dwindled to a coin of light crossed by ring shadows. For a heartbeat, she almost told them to turn back. Instead, she studied the nav charts, tracing supply arteries feeding the front. The Moth slipped past a customs buoy. Alarms chimed. "We've got a ping," Orr rasped. A Carex frigate, angles like a knife, surged from the dark. "Medical ship," Mika purred into comms, transmitting aid codes. Ilia recognized the code series. Obsolete but close enough to fool a lazy scan. Not this crew. The frigate launched a clamp drone. Ilia unbuckled, slid to the cargo bay, and popped a crate. Weapons gleamed. She assembled a coil carbine with steady hands she'd hoped never to use. The drone latched on. "Ilia!" Mika shouted. "Company!" Boarding actions. The airlock rang like a bell as Carex raiders cut their way in. They poured through, sleek chitin armor gleaming, expecting a cowering crew. Ilia braced behind a crate and fired 2 bursts. Sparks and black ichor fanned across the deck. Mika rolled the ship, gravity hiccuping. Orr slammed a crate loose, crushing a raider against a bulkhead. "Who are you?" he hissed as Ilia vaulted a rail, planted a boot in a raider's chest, and twisted the carbine into a throat joint. "Dock rat," she lied, breath ragged. More raiders. The Rust Moth screamed as the clamp dragged her. Ilia palmed a thermal puck, bit its tab, and skated it under the clamp's spine. Heat bloomed. The clamp blew off in a flower of fire, sending the frigate's tether recoiling like a snapped tendon. "Jump window now!" Mika cried. Stars stretched into silver threads as the Moth punched into slipspace. Silence fell, broken only by the crew's heaving breaths. Orr stared at Ilia. "Dock rats don't move like that." Ilia stared back. "You want me to lie better or keep you alive?" Orr clicked approval. Mika just grinned. "Welcome aboard." The Archon's net back on Ilos, Archon Valen stood before a table of floating maps. A bead of his daughter's DNA, lifted from a brush, fed a predictive lattice, blooming possible roots like frost. Admiral Kyle waited, face grim. "My lord, with respect, open searches invite kidnappers." Valen's jaw flexed. "She is not lost. She is disobedient." He didn't say afraid. He didn't say that every coffin that returned from the front smelled like her childhood soap in his memory. "Lock ports. Flag every outbound ship with unauthorized medical cargo." Kyle hesitated. "That will choke relief corridors." Valen's voice softened and hardened at once. "Then the war will do without our generosity for 12 hours. Above them, satellites turned their blind eyes inward. Across Elos, soldiers in grey moved like rain. The palace seamstress found the note, "I won't die waiting." Valen read it once, twice, and pressed it to the table until his knuckles blanched. "Find her," he said. He didn't add the other word that lived in his throat like a shard. "Please. Court of Misfits." In the free port of Lethmaji, a city welded to the ribs of a dead leviathan, the rust moth docked among knives and stories. Ilya kept her hood low. They delivered medicine to a clinic that patched miners and mercs alike, and Mika skimmed a cut that kept the moth breathing. In a cantina carved from bone, Ilya met the misfits who'd become almost allies. Nara, a winged Thalori courier who laughed like broken bells. Brix, a human coder with eyes awed to see lies as color. And Jan, a massive Ogan bruiser who kept small flowers in his beard as penance for every fight. Rumors moved faster than drinks. The Karek's navy massing at Zeph Gate. A ghost broadcast from a captured Elosian destroyer. A bounty, generous, private, on a runaway noble asset. The description was close. Brix's gaze sharpened on Ilya. "You got someone rich worried?" Ilya forced a shrug. "If rich means dangerous, I'm not going back." Mika spread star charts. "We can skirt the gate through derelict corridors, or we can run the blockade and save a convoy that can't." Ilya looked at the charts and chose the hard sky. The Zeph Gambit convoy Helios limped toward the Zeph Gate, freighters stuffed with grain, medgel, and frightened families. The Karek's net glimmered ahead, mines like sea urchins, picket corvettes like sharks. Ilya strapped into a gunwale, while Brix jammed and Nara dove like a swallow in her courier skiff, teasing interceptions away. Jan anchored himself by the cargo doors, ready to throw bodies or crates as needed. The first volley came blue and bright. Ilya replied with disciplined bursts, crippling sensors, not pilots. Mika threaded the moth through debris, snarling in Qatari. "Helios 3's venting," Orr cried. Ilya unclipped, sprinted to the bay, and launched on a tethered thruster, microbursts kicking her across the black. She slammed a patch kit onto a freighter seam, hands steady in the void. A Karek's interceptor rolled onto her, guns spitting. Nara's skiff flashed past, wing slicing the interceptor's nose. "Fly, little royal," Nara sang over comms, not knowing. They broke the picket, a miracle by sweat and luck. The convoy slid into gate alignment. Then the ghost broadcast ignited every channel. Archon Valen, face pale with fury and fear. "Runa," he spoke into the stars. "Come home. Names in the open." The word struck Ilya like a thrown stone. In the gunwale, her aim stuttered. Brix swore. "That your father?" Colors bled around Ilya in his org vision. Guilt, love, defiance, fear. "He's using my name as a beacon," she said, throat tight. Across the net the Karek's faltered, confused by the sudden royal intrusion. Mika seized the beat, ramming a corvette off vector. Jan laughed and cried at once. "Your royalty? I've been drinking gutter shots with royalty?" Ilya gripped the rim until metal creaked. "I left to help end this, not to be a banner." Orr pointed at new blips. Elosian rescue craft burning hard, legal codes blazing. "Your father is coming." Ilya toggled a private band and spoke once into the dark. "I am not a hostage. I am Ilya now." No response, only the clean silence of space. The convoy jumped, so did the moth, chased by the echo of a father's plea. In the slipstream, Ilya pressed her palm to the cold glass and chose again. Forward. The siege of Glass Harbor. Their course spat them into Glass Harbor, a refueling moon glittering with frozen oceans. The Kareks came hungry, punishers enraged. Velocian cutters dropped in behind. Valen's net cast wide. The rust moth tumbled between ice pillars as lasers boiled vapor into fog. On the ground, Evac sirens screamed. Ilya and Jan led a corridor of civilians toward armored transports, while Mika and Nara lured hunters into collapsing caverns. Bricks hijacked a harbor crane, swinging loaded tankers like clubs. A Carex captain, tall, lacquer black, cornered Ilya in a hangar of shattered glass. "Princess," he hissed, savoring the word like a wound. She shed it like a skin. Ilya fainted, cut low, and used the environment. A shard as mirror, a slick as trap. The captain fell, armor cracking like pottery. Outside, a Welosian gunship landed hard. Archon Varlan stepped onto the ice, guards fanning, eyes scanning. Ilya froze, then moved, then froze again, heart a seismic drum. The battle folded around that one inevitable meeting, until a Carex dreadnought rolled overhead and turned the sky to war. Terms of fire. The dreadnought's first salvo shattered the harbor's shield dome. Ice crystals fell like slow snow. Ilya sprinted across the open to her father, as Mika covered her with a storm of fire. Vaylin saw her, alive, unbroken, and every rigid line in him softened. "Runa," he breathed. "Ilya," she corrected, gentler than she felt. "I came to fight." A Carex spear strike chewed the ground between them. No time for old arguments. Vaylin thrust a command bracer into her hands. Then command. She linked with Bricks, Mika, Nara, Jan. Their voices braided with Elosian squads into a single will. Ilya called targets, rerouted civilians, turned ice fractures into kill lanes. Vaylin took a line with the soldiers, a ruler among equals, and bled with them. When the dreadnought opened its hangars, Nara dove with a payload of stolen mines, singing. The belly blew out in a blossom of dark light. The Carex broke. Silence returned in ragged pieces. Father and daughter stood amid cracked glass and steaming ice. "You ran," he said. "I moved," she answered. He nodded once, a surrender of pride, not principle. "Ilya of Ilos," he said at last. "Come home with rank." And for the first time since the war began, going home felt like going forward.